My name is Aisha Khan, and at that moment, standing in our cramped living room with my 3-year-old son Zain, clinging to my leg, I felt like my world cracked in two. The afternoon light slanted through the blinds, illuminating dust motes in the air, as if the universe paused to watch me crumble. I remember Zain's brown eyes, wide and frightened, as he watched his father's retreating back. I wanted to scoop him into my arms, reassure him that everything would be okay, but I was frozen, too stunned by the weight of that cruel sentence. Just 6 months earlier, I was engaged to Omar, a once charming graphic designer with an easy smile and an arm tattoo of a roaring lion. We had met at a friend's wedding in Karachi, bonding over shared childhood memories and laughter that stretched from dusk until dawn. In my mind, we were planning our future. A modest apartment in Clifton, weekend outings at Frere Hall, dreams of raising Zain together and building a life where love was enough. But reality can twist even the sweetest intentions. When I discovered I was pregnant, Omar's demeanor shifted. In the beginning, he was supportive, buying organic diapers, rubbing my swollen feet, brushing ginger tea into my nightly routines. I believed in him. I believed in us. Then, just days after Zain was born, the pressure of parenthood began to expose cracks in his confidence. I remember the first time he looked at me and Zain with something that wasn't pride or affection, something bordering on resentment. Week by week, his visits grew shorter. He came home drunk more often, his voice sharp when I dared to ask if he'd be okay alone with our son. He mocked my exhaustion, my hormonal tears, calling me overdramatic when I cried because Zain wouldn't sleep, or when I chafed under the weight of diapers, formula bills, and sleepless nights. I tried to talk to him. I encouraged counseling. But each suggestion felt like a threat to his ego. Then came the night he dropped the truth bomb. I was holding Zain while rocking him to sleep in the small crib cornered against our bedroom wall. Omar stood in the doorframe, arms crossed, the neon glow of my nightlight casting shadows across his face. He said, "I can't do this." When I asked him to explain, his eyes flickered with impatience. "Nobody wants a single mom," he said in a low voice, and walked out, leaving me clutching our son, the echo of his slam and the click of the saw lock reverberating in my bones. In that moment, I felt betrayed and ashamed, like some part of me had failed. I spent the next hour rocking Zain, whispering apologies to him as if his father's abandonment was somehow my fault. The next morning, I called my mother, consciousness heavy with humiliation. She listened as I cried, her voice gentle but firm. "You are stronger than you think. We will figure this out." Over the following weeks, I moved back into my childhood, home in Gulshan-e-Iqbal. My mother, a retired schoolteacher, cleared out the guest room, painted it in soft pastels, and stocked the pantry with Zain's favorite snacks. She held me as I cried and comforted me when Zain's father called only to demand visitation time, his tone still impatient and distant. I began cobbling together odd freelance graphic design projects, logos for small businesses, wedding invitations for neighbors, and banner ads for local shops. I barely slept, waking at dawn to work before Zain woke up, and often falling asleep at midnight, my eyes stinging from the glow of my laptop screen. I tried to keep Zain's life as normal as possible. We went to the park every afternoon, watching other children splash in fountains, their laughter a salve to his little heart. I taught him to draw shapes with chalk on the sidewalk, made pancakes shaped like cartoon characters, and read him bedtime stories of brave princesses and heroic squirrels. Still, every time someone asked if his father was with us, the question stung more than I expected. I learned to smile and say, "He's busy," or "He's working hard," though inside, my throat tightened. One evening, as I tucked Zain into bed, he whispered, "Mama, will Baba come back?" I paused, heart clenched, and kissed his forehead. "I don't know, Beta," I said softly, "but no matter what happens, I will always be here for you." He nodded, eyes heavy with sleep, and drifted off, clutching his teddy bear. I sat beside him until he snored softly, then crept out and inhaled deeply, steeling myself for what lay ahead. A year later, after nights spent working 3 different jobs, after trembling through lease negotiations for a tiny sedan-colored apartment of our own, After countless whispered prayers and promises to myself, I found myself standing on a platform covered in crimson carpet, the grand entrance of the Karachi Film Festival's annual charity gala. I was wearing a simple navy blue dress that hugged my waist, my hair swept into a loose bun. In my arms, Zayn, now 4, wore a tiny black tuxedo vest over a crisp white shirt. My throat tightened as flashes from paparazzi cameras popped around us, their lenses hungry for a story. And then I saw him. Omar, wearing a tailored charcoal suit, stood frozen at the edge of the crowd, his mouth half open and his eyes locked on me. His jaw tightened, as if he recognized a version of me he never believed I could become. Hearts pounded in my chest as Zayn's hand squeezed mine. I inhaled, squared my shoulders, and walked forward, because this time I wasn't the single mom he abandoned. I was a woman who had rebuilt her life, who was fiercely proud and fiercely in love with her son, and I was about to give him a moment he'd never forget. Omar's eyes didn't move. He stood there, like a statue frozen in time, blinking rapidly, as if unsure whether the woman walking toward him was a hallucination or a ghost from his past he'd never intended to face again. But I didn't pause, not for a second. My heels clicked steadily on the red carpet, Zayn's little hand warm in mine. I could feel the whispers swirling behind us. "Isn't that Aisha Khan?" someone murmured. "She's the one who created that viral campaign last month." That campaign? Yes. That was the moment everything changed. Just 6 months ago, I had landed a contract with a mid-sized agency that took a chance on a small-time freelancer. They needed a full digital revamp for a women's NGO. Logo, website, social content, the whole package. I put my heart into it. I worked while Zayn napped, while he colored at my feet, while he slept beside me on the couch. The campaign launched, and something unexpected happened. It caught fire. The NGO's message of female resilience and single mother empowerment struck a chord, especially because I snuck my own story into the visuals. One post featured a drawing of a mother holding her child's hand with the words, "You didn't leave me behind. You taught me how to walk forward." That post got over 1 million shares. I didn't expect it. I didn't know I had started a movement. Suddenly, I wasn't just Aisha Khan from the outskirts of Karachi. I was being interviewed by bloggers, invited to networking events, even offered a consulting position on a new government awareness campaign. People were calling me visionary. It felt surreal. Every time I accepted a call or attended a meeting, Zayn would grin and say, "Mama's on TV now." He would clap during interviews and ask if I could take him to the office one day. He didn't understand the scale of it, but he understood pride. And for the first time, I felt it too. Back, on the red carpet, a photographer crouched to snap a shot of me and Zayn. He leaned in and asked, "Is this your son?" I smiled. "Yes," I said clearly. "This is Zayn. He's my reason." Omar was still standing there, but now his date, a tall woman with crimson lips and sharp brows, nudged him. She was dressed like a model straight out of a magazine, and whispered something into his ear. I couldn't hear it, but I saw the awkward clench of his jaw. He wasn't used to being the one off stage, off balance. As I neared the entrance of the venue, I locked eyes with him. I didn't look away. I wanted him to see me, the same woman he walked out on, the same woman he said no one would want. His lips parted. "Aisha." I nodded once, cool, composed. "Omar." He opened his mouth to say more, but Zayn pulled at my hand. "Mama, is that Baba?" I crouched down, gently, carefully. "Yes," I said, eyes still on Omar. "That's him." Zayn stared at him with the kind of wonder only children carry. "He doesn't look like he remembers me." Omar's face cracked, just slightly. Maybe it was guilt, maybe regret, or maybe just the sting of public reality. We moved past him. I didn't give him a second glance. Inside the ballroom, the lighting was golden and soft. The air buzzed with elegance and music. People came up to congratulate me, to talk about the work I'd done. Zayn was given a tiny cupcake from the catering tray, and he beamed like it was the best thing in the world. For once, I wasn't drowning in survival. I was living in purpose. Later that night, as I stood near the dessert table, I saw Omar watching me from across the hall. His date was busy posing for Instagram selfies. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, but something about him had shrunk. Maybe it was the absence of control. Maybe it was just perspective. A man came up to me with a warm smile and shook my hand. "You've changed the narrative," he said. "You've made single motherhood fearless." I thanked him, and when I turned, Omar was gone, disappeared into the crowd like a ghost that had finally lost its grip on me. But I didn't feel vindictive. I didn't feel triumphant because I'd proven him wrong. I felt powerful because I had proven myself right. Before that night on the red carpet, before the viral campaign and the warm applause, there were days Omar never saw, days I wish I could forget. After he walked out, I didn't rise like a phoenix overnight. No, it was slow, messy. Some mornings, I had to physically talk myself into getting out of bed. I'd lie there with Zane's breath soft against my arm and wonder how I'd stretch 3 diapers over 5 days or make a full meal out of a half-empty fridge. I remember once standing in line at the utility office, holding Zane in one arm and trying to pay a late gas bill with crumpled cash in the other. I was short by Rs. 200. The clerk looked at me like I was trash. He said, "Come back when you're not wasting my time." I cried in the elevator, not because of the bill, but because it felt like every door I knocked on came with a judgment, a sigh, a reminder that being a single mom wasn't just hard, it was humiliating. Friends I thought I had, they disappeared like morning fog. Some said, "You should have kept your man." Others gave me polite distance, the kind that burns, worse than cruelty. My own extended relatives talked in whispers behind my back. "She trapped him with the baby," one of my cousins once said, loud enough for me to hear at a family gathering. But Zane was always my anchor. He didn't care if I wore the same jeans for 3 days. He didn't care that his bedtime stories came from a cracked paperback I'd read 100 times. To him, I was Mama. That was enough. I took on everything I could. I cleaned a neighbor's house twice a week. I did design work for peanuts. Some clients didn't even pay. I sold a gold ring Omar once gave me so I could buy Zane a warm jacket for winter. I still remember the night I stayed up sketching logos for a bakery, and Zane came and curled beside me on the floor. He said, "Are you making cookies, Mama?" I smiled through the ache. I'm helping someone who makes them. Even when I was bone-tired, even when my eyes blurred from screen time and my back ached from hours of chores, I never let him feel the panic I was swallowing daily. But there were nights I whispered into the dark, "I can't do this." Nights I cried into my pillow while Zane slept beside me, his tiny body curled like a comma around my pain. It wasn't just heartbreak that haunted me. It was shame. I had believed in Omar. I had chosen him. And now I was left to explain to a child why his father didn't show up for his 4th birthday. But you know what happens when you hit rock bottom? You stop caring about people who never deserved your loyalty in the first place. That was the turning point. It happened one day when I saw an ad for a Women in Tech Accelerator program. I almost didn't apply. Who was I to compete with women in business suits and MBA degrees? But something inside me, some small, stubborn ember, told me, try. I filled out the form during Zane's nap, submitted my portfolio, didn't expect anything. 2 weeks later, I got an email. "You've been selected." They offered mentorship, a small grant, and access to a co-working space. I sat on the floor and wept because for the first time in forever, someone said yes to me. From that day, I changed. I showed up every week to the accelerator with Zane on my hip. Some women judged me. Others offered crayons and helped distract him. But I focused, I listened, I learned. The mentors pushed me to build not just as a freelancer, but as a brand. They showed me how to pitch, how to budget, how to network, and when I landed that NGO contract months later, it felt like the world cracked open and let me breathe again. But the most powerful moment? Zane had made a drawing for me, a stick figure version of us holding hands in front of a building. He wrote in scribbled Urdu, "Mama's office." I framed it. It still hangs in my apartment. That's the version of the story Omar never saw. Higmawi didn't see the nights I held it together with duct tape and faith. He didn't see the courage it took to walk into rooms where I was the only single mother. He didn't see the woman I became when no one was watching, but he would now. And, this time, he would be the one standing in the shadows. It was 2 weeks after the red carpet. 2 weeks after I had walked past him like a stranger. 2 weeks after his jaw locked and his ego cracked under the weight of his own mistake. I was in the middle of reviewing client feedback at my home office. Zain was asleep in the other room, with his toy dinosaurs scattered across the blanket, when my phone lit up. Omar, unknown number. My heart didn't jump. It didn't break. It just paused. For the briefest second, I stared at it like a test I had already passed. I didn't answer. 30 minutes later, a message came through. "Saw you at the gala. You looked good. Proud of you." I closed the phone. No response. The next day, he sent another message. "Zain's grown. I'd like to see him." I didn't know if I was angry, exhausted, or just numb. There had been no birthday cards, no visits when Zain was sick, no check-ins when we had nothing. Now, after public success, he remembered his role? I didn't. Respond for 3 days. I needed time. I wasn't making a decision out of emotion. When I finally replied, it was clear and direct. "Zain knows who's been there. He's not a prop for guilt. If you want to see him, we start slow. Supervised visit, public place, no empty promises." He replied within minutes. "I just want to talk. Maybe catch up too, for us." For us? There was no us, not anymore. But curiosity, it creeps in, doesn't it? So I agreed. Not for him, for closure. For the woman in me who once begged him to stay, who deserved to sit across from him and see what she'd outgrown. We met at a small cafe with a kids' play area. Zain ran straight to the mini-slide, giggling as he tumbled with foam balls, and tried to chase a toddler in a Spider-Man shirt. Omar sat across from me. He looked older, tired, less smug, like life had sanded down the arrogance. He didn't start with, "I'm sorry." I noticed that. He started with, "You look different." I smiled. Success and peace will do that. He looked down, at his coffee. "I was stupid," he said. "Back then, I panicked. I wasn't ready, but I've changed." I took a sip of my tea, calm and unshaken. "You didn't panic. You abandoned. Let's call it what it was." That silence? It spoke. Volumes. He couldn't argue. Then he looked up. "I think about Zain every day." I leaned forward. Thinking and showing up are different. He needed you when I had nothing but rice and lentils and a cracked phone screen. You weren't there. You don't get to show up now, like that never happened. His eyes watered a bit. Whether it was shame or performance, I couldn't say. "I don't want to be the villain in his life," he whispered. I nodded. "Then act like a father, not a regret." We arranged a supervised visit at a local park. I told Zain, gently, that his father wanted to see him. His response was quiet. "Will he stay this time?" That question gutted me. I knelt down. "I don't know, sweetheart, but I'll be right there with you." At the park, Omar brought a soccer ball. Zain was shy at first. He clung to my leg, eyes cautious. But then, slowly, he walked over. Omar kicked the ball gently, and Zain kicked it back. They played for maybe 15 minutes before Zain said, "I'm tired," and came back to sit beside me. Omar looked heartbroken, because in that moment he realized he had to earn what he once had for free. We left with Zain holding my hand. He didn't look back. Neither did I. Later that night, Omar texted again. "Thanks for today. You've done an amazing job. I don't know how you did it." I stared at the message, then typed, "I did it alone. That's how." I never heard from him again after that, not for months. But that was okay. Because I didn't need apologies, I didn't need closure. I had built a life where Zain laughed freely, where I could pay bills on time, where we danced barefoot in our living room to old Bollywood songs. And that was more than enough. About 2 months after that park visit, something unexpected happened. I was invited to speak at a panel hosted by one of the largest women's empowerment organizations in Pakistan. The theme? Rebuilding after rock bottom. They wanted real voices, survivors, fighters, people who didn't just rise, but rose while carrying others. I didn't say yes right away. Public speaking wasn't my comfort zone. Designing behind a screen, editing photos at 2 a.m., that was where I thrived. But something inside me, something stubborn and quiet, told me this was a moment I owed to myself. So I accepted. The night before the event, I stood in front of my mirror practicing what I'd say. Zayn peeked in wearing his mismatched pajamas and said, "Are you going to be famous tomorrow?" I laughed. "I already am. I'm famous to you." He nodded and climbed into bed without another word, as if that answer was all the truth he needed. The morning of the panel, I wore a soft cream blouse and navy slacks. Nothing extravagant, just clean, elegant, confident. I held my shoulders back and walked into the auditorium like I belonged there, because I did. On stage, sitting, between 2 CEOs and a university professor, I told my story. Not the glamorous version. The real one. I told them how I was left with a toddler and a bag of unpaid bills, how I doubted myself every day, how I built my first logo with a cracked mouse and borrowed Wi-Fi from a neighbor who didn't know. I told them about the judgment, the silence, from people I loved, the birthdays I spent scraping coins to make cake from scratch. And then I told them about Zayn, how he once looked up from a bowl of lentils and said, "You're my best friend, Mama." How that gave me more strength than any apology ever could. When I finished, the room was silent, then roaring with applause. Women stood, some wiped tears. One came up afterward and whispered, "You reminded me I'm not broken, I'm just unfinished." That evening, the event photos went up on Instagram, and I knew Omar would see them. I knew his friends would too, but I didn't post them for him. I posted them for every woman who'd ever heard "Nobody wants a single mom," and let that sentence pierce like gospel. I posted them for every mother who thinks survival is the ceiling when, really, it's just the floor. I posted them for me. A week later, I got an email from a firm, a big one of the leading creative agencies in Lahore. They wanted to offer me a consulting position, 6 figures, full benefits, remote flexibility. They said, "We want your voice, your story, your eye." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just closed my eyes and thought back to the night I sat in the dark holding Zayn and whispering, "We'll find a way." This was the way. I accepted, and on my first day, when they asked me to introduce myself in the team meeting, I said, "My name is Aisha Khan. I'm a mother, a designer, a woman who was once told she was unwanted and built a life so beautiful, even the people who left couldn't look away." Silence again. Then someone whispered into the mic, "We're lucky to have you." That night, I took Zayn out for ice cream. He ordered mango. I ordered chocolate. We sat on the curb, our feet swinging, giggling like it was the only thing. That mattered. And when he looked up and said, "I think Baba would be proud if he saw us now," I smiled gently and said, "Maybe, but what matters is that we are proud of us. Right?" Zayn nodded. His face lit up with sticky joy. And in that moment, under the Karachi stars, I realized I didn't need revenge. I didn't need him to hurt, because I had something far sweeter than bitterness, a life he could have had, but walked away from. The gala came exactly 1 year after that night, the night Omar left, and I stood in our tiny living room, cradling Zayn, surrounded by silence and disbelief. This time, the invitation didn't just arrive in an email. It came with a personal note from the event director. "You are not just a guest this year, Aisha. You're our honoree. The Reclaiming Light Award is yours." I stood there staring at the gold-embossed card, my hand trembling. Zayn ran around the living room in circles, holding a cardboard crown he'd made at school. "Are you a queen now, Mama?" I smiled. "No, sweetheart. I'm just someone who didn't give up. I found a stylist through a friend, a quiet woman, named Neha, who insisted I wear a floor-length emerald green gown with silver embroidery along the sleeves. "You'll glow in this," she said, like the woman who became her own rescue. When I stepped out of the car onto the red carpet, the lights felt less blinding this time. I knew who I was now. I wasn't performing. I wasn't proving. I was arriving. Zain walked beside me in a fitted black blazer and bow tie. He waved at cameras, said thank you when someone complimented his shoes, and held my hand like a little gentleman. The crowd parted as I entered the ballroom. People rose to their feet. Cameras clicked. My face lit up on the giant screen behind the stage, and the host began reading the citation. For resilience in the face of abandonment, for turning judgment into purpose, and for showing every woman what power looks like in heels and humility. I took the stage, heart pounding but steady. As I stepped up to the mic, I saw him, Omar, standing in the back corner, alone. Not with a date this time, not surrounded by flashing lights, just watching. His face was pale, his eyes wide, and the moment our eyes met, he froze. I didn't break eye contact. I wanted him to see. Every inch of the woman he'd said would never be wanted. The mother he left with shame in her chest and his name on her child's lips. I spoke into the mic, voice calm and clear. A year ago, someone told me, nobody wants a single mom. And for a moment, I believed them. But what I've learned since is that people don't define your worth. You do. My son didn't need someone who stayed for convenience. He needed someone who fought for love. And I didn't just survive. I built a life so full, so grounded, that even the echoes of that sentence can't shake me now. The room burst into applause. Some people stood. Zain clapped harder than anyone. I stepped off stage and returned to my seat, award in hand, emotions swirling. When I turned again, Omar was gone. He had left, quietly, without a word. And somehow that felt right. His presence was never the reward. His absence was the closure. Later that night, I tucked Zain into bed and placed the award on the shelf beside his school crafts. He looked at it and asked, "Is that for being brave?" I nodded. "Yes, baby, that's exactly what it's for." Leaned forward and whispered, "Then you should get one every day." I smiled, held him close, and let the weight of the moment sink in. Because this was everything. Not the dress, not the applause, not the glittering award, but the quiet victory of motherhood. The long road of nights spent alone. The rebuild from rejection to recognition. And above all, the little boy who once asked why his father never came, now falling asleep with Wiki. Pride glowing on his face. I didn't get the life I planned, but I got the life I earned. And every day I choose it. Again, and again, and again.